I'm Jesse Redmond from LEEF Brands, and I'm here with our CEO, Micah Anderson. Micah, what's happening, man?
Just hanging out.
Another beautiful day at the ranch. Yeah, so it's been about a month since we last talked out here. Tell us what's been going on and what's happening today.
Yeah, so we're just getting closer to planting. I guess you can't necessarily see it. We got one of the fields here, so just disking, ripping, getting all the furrows bed up, all that. We are looking to plant tomorrow, and basically have like 12 blocks, that make up about 65 acres, and we'll start at block 1 and work our way through the entire process. Should take us about 7 to 10 days to get everything fully planted. First crop's going to be just one strain, auto crop. That's just primarily, for distillate production. We should harvest that late June and try and be out of the ground and back into the ground with the next set of plants over the course of like 2 to 3 weeks. Same thing. So you go in, you start at field 1, and we start harvesting at field 1 and work our way around. And you have another crew that comes in right behind them and plants as you're harvesting, cleaning up, redoing the beds, and then replanting again. So then we'll have another harvest in the fall, October, November. And that particular crop will have a lot more variety just in terms of genetics, and some of it's purpose for frozen material, some of it's for dry material, and back into the ground with roughly, it's about 65 acres-ish.
Yeah, so set the stage a little bit. Salisbury Canyon Ranch is 1,900 acres. We have a 187-acre cannabis permit. We have a 100-acre hemp permit, which we're not currently using. And at 187 acres for cannabis, we're doing 65 acres. When you first said we were doing 65 acres, I thought one big harvest, one big sun-grown harvest, because when you look around, you don't see any glass houses, you don't see any hoop houses, you don't see any light depth stuff. So I thought we might just get one big run. But what you're saying is we're going to get 2 harvests by using autoflowers. Can you talk a little bit about how autoflowers work for people that don't know about that?
Yeah, it's like a term used for the genetic, but it's essentially, it's a seed stock or strain that will flower automatically in a very short amount of time. Doesn't matter what the light cycle is. So if it's the middle of summer and you've got, 16 hours of sunlight, it's still going to flower no matter what. And so it's about 83 days from the time that you pop seeds to harvest. And it's done. It's like the strain's pretty much used for oil production. It's a way to get 2 crops instead of 1. So sometimes you can even go in the winter, and if the weather is good enough, you can run another one and have a very short, stubby crop just for a bumper crop that's out of season.
And so we're going to have 65 acres the first time of autoflowers of one strain. And I've heard you use this term golden batch before. Can you talk about why, especially with this ethanol line, why it's fine just to have one strain and actually an advantage?
Yeah, so golden batch, it's essentially when you're doing extraction, the larger the batch of constant, consistent material that you have, the better it is for us on the extraction side to really dial in the machinery to work with that particular batch of product, right? And so you dial in temperature and length of residency and winterization, all these different factors that go into extraction. And what can become problematic is that if you have a bunch of small batches, you can never tune it in for a golden batch. You're always just kind of chasing, and you're not as efficient. You're leaving, a yield here, a point here, a point there on yield efficiencies. And over the course of, hundreds of acres of material, it's millions of dollars at the end of the day. So when we grow so much material of the same exact thing, every time we're pulling product out of the locker to go into extraction, it's the same thing over and over and over again. So we're going to be able to really kind of hone in on how do we juice the lemon correctly and get the most amount of lemon juice out of it, is the way to think about it. And we've been talking to a few different companies that we're implementing some new technology that shoots a laser into the extraction machine and tells us is the cannabinoid saturation rate in the tincture itself, in the ethanol, at the right saturation, or are you seeing diminishing returns? And so just all of it's really for the purpose of us being efficient and better at what we're doing.
In the fall, things will change a little bit. For people that don't know, at LEEF, we have 3 extraction lines. We have the ethanol line just for distillate. We have the hydrocarbon line, which is for things like live resins, even cured resins, your diamonds, your shatters, your butters. Then we have the solventless line, which is for rosin. And so the first crop here, the autoflowers, we mainly, if not exclusively, purpose for distillate. But if you talk a little bit about the cool things we can do in terms of planting certain genetics that we know will work well for those other lines this fall.
Yeah. So, we've been doing this for about 8 years now. And over the course of that time, we've been collecting all this data on which strains work well through different extraction lines and into what fractions to just get good yield data and make informed decisions around what to plant, what to run, what to buy, all that kind of stuff. And so we'll be selecting a bunch of different genetics that we know historically have worked well for us in the past. Some of it's new stuff because I think you always got to have some newness on the menu and keep it fresh. And it's good for us to be doing R&D constantly and just try new stuff and go back. This one did really well, and you add that to the breeding program so that you have better genetics later down the road. But that's essentially it. It's just like we are going to plant what we know works well and works well with our clients. Gives us an opportunity to work with the clients on what they want to in a way where they've got like a block of the supply chain that they need, so they've got consistency in their material and know that like, okay, cool, we're good for the next 12 months with whatever the strain name is, and we're going to plant it for them. And that's just part of the service that we provide. So no fees to do that. It's on us. Yep. We'll plant it and throw that into the sales pipeline.
And Mike, this has been a massive undertaking, both in terms of time, money. It's been an amazing project to watch that has taken several years to unfold. If you're a shareholder or prospective investor looking at this and you're saying LEEF Brands is planting what's going to become one of the largest cannabis farms in the world, what's the biggest benefit to the bottom line? Like economically, what's the reason for doing this?
I mean, just like in a couple sentences, we go from purchasing material for $30 and we grow it for $5, and it's more efficient with a better yield. And so you get an even bigger pickup beyond just the fact that it's a reduction in your cost of goods. Short and sweet. That's like I can go into some other ideas that we have that I think makes us a better company and stickier with our clients. The ranch is unique. It's a very special place. It's got 5 really cool houses and we can host events here. And so one of the things we want to do is like go to our bigger clients, or not even so much our bigger clients, but go to our clients and say, hey, we're going to plant the genetics that you guys want. And we want you to bring in your entire company, and like, we'll host a party where you guys get to like tour your employees through the field and they get to check it all out and be a part of that, experience what it's like to be a part of the farming part as well. We've done that in extraction and now we want to do it here. So I also want to kind of leverage the ranch as a space for like industry events or like different trade associations that need to like hash out like how are we going to fix some of the issues that we have in California, and use it as a space for that as well.
The other thing that I was surprised to learn as I got more integrated into LEEF and learned more about the California market and concentrates is that we often hear about California having an oversupply of flower. And so you would think there might be an oversupply of material for extraction as well, but it actually kind of works the opposite way in that there is a shortage of clean material for extraction. Can you talk about why that is and why we're confident that we're going to be producing clean material at Salisbury Canyon Ranch?
Yeah, I think it's a couple different reasons. One of the main ones is California has a systemic pesticide issue throughout the entire state. Pesticides and metals. Metals are less problematic for us because metals get cleaned up through the extraction process and fall out usually in the process. So it's more of a pesticide issue. So there's too much cultivation in California, but a lot of the material is unpurchasable. If I can say that word right. For us as a company, we send our procurement team across the entire state. On an average basis, 50% of what we test, we do a micro extraction. So we'll take a sample of material from a farm, we run it through some sort of extraction device. We test that crude extract to give us a visibility into like, is it clean or is it not clean? And 50% of what we test fails. And so it's like half of the supply chain in California doesn't really exist for us as a company based on like our business model. And then the other part too is that like, especially when it comes to distillate production, most distillate material comes from a product called trim, which is a byproduct of flour. And so, if there's 1,000 pounds of flour on the market and that was, you're only getting half of that in trim. So again, it's a further reduction in the total size of the supply chain in California. So there's not enough material for us. We purchase around a couple hundred acres worth of stuff a year, and yeah, we sometimes run into supply chain gaps where we're like, we don't have material to run. Tuesday and Friday this week and that's problematic for our business. So it's better to keep the machines running 24/7, especially if you got the sales demand. So this will start to iron out some of that wobbliness for us, and it helps us with, then that gets into like sales momentum and not breaking the flywheel once you get that going. So
And the pesticides aren't even always intentional, right? It's not even the bad actors of the cannabis companies spraying stuff. It can be there's a raspberry farm, there's a strawberry farm that's a mile down the road, and that drifts to you, right?
yeah,
Not in our case, but in others. And I think we're uniquely positioned here, and that we have the 1,900-acre ranch, which gives us a lot of cushion. But even outside of our property line, there's not a lot of other farms that could be spraying things that could drift to us.
yeah, totally. I think two things. I think the vast majority of cannabis cultivators in the state, they have good practices. They're not the ones that are the problem. It's the food industry, and just in food, wine, it's all of it. And it's something that needs to get fixed, but there's just pesticides blowing all over the place. And so sometimes like miles down the way, and then this clean farm that has good practices ends up failing because of some neighbor that's down the road that's completely out of their control. So when we found the ranch roughly 4 years ago, that was the thing that we're like, it's huge, it's bigger than what we need, but it's like this insurance policy. We have this big buffer. It's like our field is in an island surrounded by a mountain range that we own. And so there's no one coming around. And yeah, we're super confident that we're not going to have pesticide issues as a result of it.
And going back to the impact for investors, can you talk a little bit about the timing of this? Like here we are planting the farm in the next couple of days. Can you talk about when we'll harvest that material, when we'll start integrating that, and when that'll start to show up on our financials?
Yeah, short answer is end of Q3 into Q4. So we'll harvest in, like I said, the end of June. Then you got to dry it. You got to prepare it for extraction. So it probably won't, and we're still going to test it, even though we grew it. Like it all has to go through the same SOP process, and all of that just takes time, and sometimes weeks. So I think that we'll realistically start running material, call it in August. Sales start to come in at the end of August, and then you'll see that kind of escalate into Q1, Q2 of next year.
And then we'll have the fall harvest, which will give us more material to incorporate. And then looking ahead, Micah, we talked about we have 65 acres that we're cultivating this year, 187-acre permit. Is the goal over the next couple of years to grow more of our own material and incorporate more of that into our extraction business?
Yeah, for sure. So the permit's 187. I'm hopeful that we can even extend that a little bit. That's the goal. We're currently doing around 65 to 70, and Q1 of next year, I'd like to expand into it. Like how fast we do that, I don't know yet. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'd be advantageous to us to just continue to consume into that. So over the next 2-3 years, we'll grow into the whole thing, and hopefully we can expand into some of the areas of the ranch.
So my last question for you, massive undertaking, like I said, just the amount of time, the amount of money, the amount of challenges that come with a project like this. What's the biggest thing you've learned from building Salisbury Canyon Ranch?
Biggest thing I've learned in this particular project, it's the same thing I learned when we built the extraction facility. I think it's just everything takes longer and costs more than you thought it was going to. And so to be just extremely realistic and set the expectations correctly on when you're going to actually be doing something. Like last year, we thought we were going to be in the ground last year, and not because of a bunch of great effort from our team. We have a really good team on all sides of the compliance, the legal, all the stuff that goes into that, but just, government regulations and all that in California. It's very, very challenging to get one of these projects through. And yeah, I mean, there's honestly a laundry list, like much longer than that of learning lessons that came from it. But it's all of these different cannabis projects that we've done since the inception of the company have all been, I would say that about every single one of them. Every one of them would cost more money, took longer, and just to really factor that into, when we're looking at expanding, it's probably going to take longer be more expensive, and just be prepared for that.
Yeah, and that's not even a LEEF problem or a California problem. When I was an analyst at Water Tower Research covering companies, you saw that across the board. It's almost impossible in cannabis to be too conservative with your assumptions because everything takes longer than you expect. Everything costs more than you expect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, awesome, man. Great to talk to you today. Look forward to coming back. Probably be 2 or 3 months. We'll be back here for the summer harvest. Look forward to seeing plants about waist high. It's going to smell great out here. We'll check with you guys then.
Thank you.